Dan, do you think anyone can run a 100 miler or even a sub 3 hour? Which is harder?
I love that question. I'd say sub 3 hour marathon is much harder.
Okay.
And the reason is because the sub 3 hour marathon is very specific and you can't miss. You have to be super dialed in. And what it takes to get to the sub 3 hour marathon is even harder because you're beating your body up with these intense workouts. And like volume is a lot on the body, but putting volume mixed with intensity and running fast. The sub 3 hour is a 6:50 pace, but that's if you're.
Welcome to the People Run podcast. Today we have a new guest. But first off, I'm your host, Fitz Mayi, and today we have Dan on. Dan is a beast, man. Dan is a sub 3 marathoner. He is a coach. He's doing an ultra like every other week. Just recently, I saw he was training. I believe it was like 12, 14 hours just training for a race, man. But not only that, he's also on Instagram and YouTube creating some amazing content. We were just chopping it up a little bit before this. Some hilarious, funny. You got to check it out, man. I'll share it here on the description for sure. But definitely check out Dan's stuff. But I want to get into it, man, because Dan is doing some amazing things in the running space and taking it to some levels. You know, talk about going the distance and being true to yourself, man. Dan, what's up, man? How you doing?
Going on, Fitz. I really appreciate you having me on. I always love to talk running, so this is a podcast I was 100% down to do. So this is going to be great.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, man. Same, always down to talk running, man. And I'm definitely interested in your running. Let's get right into it, man. First off, I'll start like, did you ever imagine you're gonna be a sub 3 hour marathoner or run ultras for that matter? Because you've done a few.
Never in my life would I have thought, if we were to go back, I'm 32 now, so if we were to go back to 22-year-old Dan, never would I have thought that I would be running at all. It was never really a part of my life in my younger years. Besides like soccer and wrestling, I would run to cut weight, or I would run to 2 weeks out from the start of training camp for soccer. I would start like, I got to get back in shape. But once they were finished, like I wasn't picking it up as a hobby. And so in 2019, I was doing Olympic weightlifting for like 6 to 7 years. And Olympic weightlifting consists of snatching and clean and jerks. And I was doing it competitively. And in one of my competitions, I unfortunately, but fortunately, dislocated my shoulder and I had to get shoulder surgery. And that's when I was recovering, and my orthopedic doctor said, hey, listen, you can't really lift weights too much yet, but if you want to like move around more, I could see you're like eager to get after it again. You could start picking up running because you're allowed to do that. And I was like, man, this is going to suck. Let me try it out. And I started with legit just 1 mile and got hooked with like throughout the day, I would run 1 mile. And then maybe a couple hours later, I'd run a mile again. And at this point, I'm just running a mile hard because that's all I really knew. And then I started like 5 miles, 10 miles. And I was just amazed I was using Map My Run at this time. And I would, when I was Olympic weightlifting, I would record all my sessions. So I was so used to like doing something and then watching it afterwards for like an hour. So Map My Run, I would be able to look at the map and be like, wow, I ran past like my high school. I ran past here. And I was like going so far. To me at the time, it seemed so far. And so that got me like kind of hooked on it. And then eventually I signed up for my first marathon that I ran in 2020. And from there it took off. And when COVID hit, we weren't doing much. So I was on YouTube all the time. And that's where I found out people run 100 miles. And just like the personality I am, I see something like that. I'm like, that is crazy that people run that far. I'm interested. Let's try and do it. And that's where I got hooked. And I ran my first 50 miles like around my neighborhood and kind of destroyed my body doing it because I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. But as the coach I am, I've been coaching people in general fitness since I'm 18 years old. So I started picking up like, all right, how can I program myself and really learn how to do this correctly so I'm not destroying my body? And as I learned, I was like, okay, I'm figuring out this formula. And then I was really diving into like, let me see if I can compete in these ultra marathons and get after it and run a marathon. And a sub 3 just sounded like the ultimate goal when it came to running a marathon. But I really started with ultra marathons first. Like I ran that first marathon, and then I was in ultra marathon world for a while. And not until last December, not this past December, in 2023, CIM had passed. And literally the day after CIM, I was like looking at, some people were posting on Instagram, and I was looking at results, and I know that's like a hot marathon to run fast. And I was
Yep.
like, you know what? I'm just going to sign up. Like next year, I'm running a Sub-3 marathon. Now it's going to happen. And that was always my original goal when I started running. It's like a Sub-3. And I think at this point, I was like, I'm prepared, or I'm going to be able to prepare myself. So that's how that occurred. And I actually ran Sub-3 in December 2024. And before that, I ran, at that time, it was 5 100-mile races. So built
Oof.
up a lot. I would have never
Yeah.
imagined myself running 100 miles, and then I accomplished that. And once you do these things, like you're like, wow, I did that. There's no way I can't do it again. Well, let's find a harder version, but I can do that again. And same thing. I knew once I hit Sub-3 that there would be no doubt that I won't be able to run sub 255 or sub 250 one day. So it opens up that, unlocks that new door. And the more you do these hard things, David Goggins talks about it, like calluses your mind. Like you're building up this callus that you're going to be able to just accomplish anything you put your mind to, as long as you put in the work. So that's how I got there. And I'm pretty amazed still to this day that I'm capable of doing it. But then I also take a look in the rear view, and I'm like, well, I put in a ton of work to get here, and I've been so consistent ever since I started. So it kind of makes sense why I was able to accomplish those accolades.
Man, that's insane, man, and a lot of progress in 4 or 5 year run. It sounds like. Definitely talk about Goggins and callousing the mind to shoulder to start running to 5 ultras and a Sub-3. Talk about the
Yeah,
dream. You mentioned Goggins. Was that one of your inspirations starting? Who were some of those first few people you saw on YouTube or got you at the start, around that 2019, 2020 mark?
for sure. I mean, to even like running to me was just like, when I looked at cross country, I was like, man, I don't know why those guys do that. Like do a real sport. And like now I want to like slap that version of Dan and be like, that's probably one of the hardest sports you could do. Like for not only your mental, physical, and everything. So now cross country, like if I were to go back to high school, I would do cross country. But
Yeah.
so like running wasn't, there was nothing like attractive to running to me, because I always just thought like weight room, get big, get strong, like maybe do sprints, but not like run distance. Completely different mindset now. But I found Goggins, Cam Hanes, Nick Bear, those guys, and they made running more attractive, because they did do the working out part, but they also like showed like the mental side of it, and how much it not only improves them as an athlete, but it improves their whole life, and it revolves around their life. Like how they show up in training for running is how they show up for business, how they show up for their family. So as I matured as well and realized like what real life throws at you, like running was a catalyst to getting you prepared for things outside of training. So they really opened the door for me. When I was recovering from my shoulder surgery, I read Goggins' first book. I would watch Nick Bear's YouTube videos, and like all that stuff got me amped up to get into training. So, and it definitely completely changed my life after like hearing a story like Goggins. Like this guy's tremendously overweight, lost all that weight in a fast period of time, doing sick stuff, and
Yeah.
then goes through the SEALs training like 2 or 3 times to complete it. Like I've never heard anyone else even come close to doing that, and like it just like shows like that's just a normal guy that was weak at one point, and he was very capable of doing it by just putting his head down and putting in the work. And that's how I feel about myself. Like I'm just a normal guy, and I complain about like things, and I don't want to do it, but you just put your head down and you do it, and you stay consistent with it, and you push yourself. You got to go through some type of pain, and you're capable of doing these like amazing things. So it's really cool to have those inspirations as well. And that's what I, want to be for other people as well.
Yeah, man, those are some great heavy hitters there for sure. I'm a fan of all of those you mentioned right there. Goggins one specifically. I was into the earlier Nick Bear stuff, man, and I relate more to Goggins' story because I used to at one point be like 300 plus as well. And I lost mine in a year. I didn't do it in 3 months, which to me is still mind boggling. I don't know how, but even a year for me was insane. I had lost 150 in a year. And
Wow.
this was like before I got into lifting as well. First, before I got into running, for me it was lifting first, and same thing, man. COVID happened, and it's just like let's start running. No injury, but it's just the gyms were closed and whatnot. And I was like, let me get into running, and then as we all do, that rabbit hole opens. And to your point, I loved how you said, man, running is definitely a catalyst, in my opinion, as well, to a lot of great things, man. A lot of people I've met through the podcast, and you just meet runners, you know this as well. You go to runs, you go to expos, it's like everyone's got an amazing story, and they're just out there. We've all put in the work, we've all trained, we're all trying to improve ourselves. It's a great sport, where people come together and it's all about progress and growth, man. That is insane and awesome. Talk to me about your earlier few races before you hit the sub 3 during that 5 month period, those ultras and some of the races you did leading up to that. Like, what were those times like? We'll get into ultras in a minute because I have loads of questions about these 5 ultras. But like, what were those times like, and how did you feel? How did you figure it out to get faster and keep improving?
Yeah. So that first marathon I did, I went into it like I'll run a sub 4. I think I'm capable of running a sub 4. I was running around like a 9 minute, 9:30 pace for like my easier runs. So when I started, I had like an athletic background, so I was like, it was easier for me to get into running and go faster. Where I know some people, I mean, being a coach, I see some people starting and they're much slower and they need a little more time to build up and like understand speed work and leg turnover and form and all that. Eventually they do get really fast. So I was able to run a 3:30 my first marathon. And then from there, I think it was just building volume and running like just fast interval runs and tempo runs and keeping that included. And then from there, like I started with like a 50 miler, and I was in the mountains a lot. I was big on trail running. So I do a lot of trail running back in my hometown. There's this beautiful trail where I was able to get like around like 100 feet per mile, which is a decent amount of climbing if you're just training in a non-mountainous area.
Yeah.
And so I signed up for a bunch of mountain races where I did like a 50 miler in Georgia in the Blue Mountains. And that one, it was like a 12-hour finish and I came in second place. So that one like amped me up. I went for my first 100 miler. This was down in North Carolina. It's called the Beast of the East 100. And I just looked for some hard. So it's like 20,000 feet of climbing and 100 miles,
Oof.
which is a decent amount. Like you look at like Western states and those kind of races, is about like 18,000. But out west, it's a different game with the altitude, as you know.
Yeah.
But so I went to the Beast of the East. I actually DNF'd my first one at mile 82. It had rained a lot that whole race for the most part. And I didn't know much about foot care, and my feet were just absolutely destroyed to the point where like I was moving so slow I couldn't make the cutoffs for the aid stations. So I had to DNF. And then it was like my goal to go back to that 100 miler and finish it, which I did. And along the way, I actually did my first backyard just to do it for fun. I did a backyard that was over here in New Jersey. And what a backyard is, you run 4.167 miles every hour on the hour until there's only one person left. And I was like intrigued. I didn't know how far I would go. I was just like, I'll try it out. I saw Courtney Dahlwalter and Harvey and ended up running 100 miles. I did 24 hours. And at the 24-hour mark, I was like feeling my knee a little bit. And I still had the Beast of the East redemption run coming up in December. This was in August. So I called it at 24 hours. I got my first 100 miler and then went to the Beast of the East again. I ended up placing fourth. I finished in like 27 hours that time. And that's where I was like, okay, like this is really cool. Like I'm competing now. I'm placing top 5 in these races. So, and then I signed up for like a bunch of 50Ks. I believe my fastest 50K, it was a road 50K in DC, the Marine Corps 50K. I ran like a 4:12. I actually ran a trail one that was like a 4:08. So like that was a decent time for a 50K, especially in the trails, and just like building up like all these different races, and um, getting more into like adding speed work along with it. I think even if you're running 100 miles in the mountains, you should be doing some type of speed work to have that leg turnover when you need it. Even backyard races, you need some leg turnover. So I think it was the mixture between volume and speed work
Yeah.
that I was just hitting and doing races and knowing how to fuel, and learning from these different races that eventually led to me into the sub 3 training, to where I was able to build up and get that sub 3 marathon. But there was a lot of failures along those ways too, right? With that DNF, and then I had other races where like the fueling was just awful, and I was like vomiting, and I was able to pull it off and finish some races, but um, it would get messy. And then I have like a great group of guys that we go out for these runs, and we're running like anywhere from 15 to 40 miles together, and just like enjoying ourselves out there, and stopping at 7-Elevens or Wawa or convenience stores for an aid station, and we're just like out there for hours on our feet. And I think that plays a big role in just the more you do something, the better you get at it. So if you're out on your feet for half a day, multiple times a month, then you're only going to get better at it. And if you're enjoying it, and having some laughs, and you have some passion about it, you're going to be very capable of doing something really hard when it comes down to like, okay, now I'm going to train for this specific thing and go all in on it.
Yeah, for sure, man. It definitely seems from all stuff I've seen from you, you enjoy it and have a blast out there. Which is, I'm sure, a part of the game when it comes to going those distances. How do you feel like or I'll ask you better said, like your fitness from lifting and all that translated to running, and did that give you a base, or how did you build that base to go from, man, I'm gonna start running, but I'm also gonna do ultras?
Yeah, I think it plays a huge role, huge role. I was doing a lot of squatting and all those things. So my legs were very strong just to start out. And when you're doing mountain races, you need to have strength. It's not just the aerobic capacity. Like you got to be strong to climb up these mountains. So to have that background made it easier, and it's never easy, but it's easier to get involved and like go the distance on some of these climbs. So that played a big role. And then it was figuring out, I knew I couldn't lift the same way I was before, because my body would just be destroyed by now. I wouldn't be able to probably be doing what I'm doing. So I had to figure out how I can make the lifting work with still gaining strength and being able to run further. Because if you're lifting a lot and eating a lot and all that, you're probably going to be putting on a bunch of muscle, and you're going to be heavier. But as a runner, you don't want to be too heavy. So it's like a seasonal thing where like I'll hit races and I'll probably lose a bunch of muscle because my priority is this race. But it doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving up strength training, but the strength training becomes more of like maintenance work. And then there's seasons where it's like, okay, I'm not racing for an X amount of months, so I'm going to put some time into gaining some more weight, and gaining more muscle back. And then I'm going to build that back up, and then head that into the next season of races. So that has been a good formula for me and for my athletes, so that you're never in a point where like you're just diminishing all your muscle, and then you're just running all the time, and then injuries are popping up. It's like you have to have times where it's like, this is the priority and this is the priority. And when I flipped that mindset, because I tried doing the lifting and the running all at
Yeah,
once, and like
same.
so much of it destroyed, bro. My body was inflamed all the time. I wasn't getting enough fuel. It just was never enough. And then when I pulled back on one of them, my body's like, "Thank you. Like this has been great." And no injuries or things. Obviously, some nagging things may pop up here and there, but able to take care of it pretty quick. So that formula that I figured out of just like prioritizing and shutting my ego off sometimes has really helped me continue to be not only like a strong runner for running, but a strong runner with muscle.
Yeah, I love that you touched on that. It was something I was definitely curious to asking you because for those listening, Dan's got some wheels, man. I've seen the guy squat. If you check his Instagram, the guy squatting 3 plates. He ain't playing when it comes to the gym room. He got wheels. So I was curious to ask you how you balance the two. Because often you hear, too much muscle will slow you down, or vice versa. You need the muscle, especially for you. You're doing crazy vert where you're gonna want the legs to go up the mountains and whatnot. So I think that's a good one for the listener. Take it in seasons. Are you in I got a race coming up season, or am I focused on getting some muscle back right now and just lifting heavy in the gym? How did you learn that though? I know eventually you became a coach, but I'm sure you weren't always a running coach. Like, do you use your races as experience and you've just been taking notes? Okay, this worked, that didn't work. Or you started reading some books, or eventually you just became a coach and said, you know what, let me go become a coach.
Yeah. So like some of the ideology I even take from my weightlifting coach, Dane Miller, who was my last weightlifting coach before I ended that career. And a lot of his ideology is a lot of mental stuff. And I've learned that like a lot of this game is mentality and having more conversation about what's going on in life, because that's going to flow into training a lot. Like if you're stressed out with work, or you're stressed out with family stuff, or you're not sleeping enough, or your nutrition is off, that's going to play a bigger role than you hitting this VO2 max workout. And if you not hitting the workout, it probably is because of things that are going outside of life. So I kind of just like, that's the main thing of making sure the identity is like you are you as a whole, and you're not you as a runner and you as an employee or a business owner or a dad or whatever it is. It's like, that's entirely you. You're all one, and that's all part of it. So let's look at it through that lens. And then the other thing is like, okay, well, the weightlifting programming is going to be different than how you program a run. So I had to learn from just like reading and searching online and going through different things to get a better understanding how programming works for runners. And some of it comes smooth to me because I've been doing this since I'm 18. So it was like, oh, it's very similar, but now it's more specific for running. And then the main thing is like being in the field and actually doing it, because those feelings can't be replicated through a book. You actually have to feel what someone's going through, especially for my ultra running athletes that are in a 100-mile race. And I'm out there with them at mile 70 and they're going through these problems. I'm like, dude, I've been here before. Like, we're going to get through this, because all we have to do is get X, Y, Z in. And then you just need to like relax a little more, bring the heart rate down. I know from experience for doing those things. So it's a little bit of like studying, experience, taking old coaching methods that I've learned from my past coaches in weightlifting and mashing them all together. And it's really created this great formula for me as a coach to coach myself, to be able to do all these things. And I always put myself first as like the dummy, to be like, all right, let me test this out to see if it works for me. And if it does, then it's something I could take note of. Everyone is different as an individual as well. So like what works for me and what works for you may not work at all for someone else. So it's figuring out like it's a project every time. It's figuring out that person, what works for them, and how we can formulate some of my formula, but they have their own formula that we can mash together to create what's going to be the thing that gets you to progression and hit the goal.
I love that, man. Especially the identity piece, man, and figuring out, and more so testing it on yourself. I'm the same way. Like, I like to test things on my first before I go ahead and like give certain people I'm coaching or friends advice and whatnot. If I tried it, I feel I can give you a better answer, or at least I'm comfortable with it, because it's like you said, man, you're in a 100-mile race. I can't relate to that point yet, but it's like, hey, this is going to happen here, and like people are going to be receptive to that. So that's awesome. If you feel you're going to be this type of person and your whole identity is around, it's going to be a lot easier for you to take on those things versus you fighting a different willpower or whatever it be. Like, I want to do this, but I don't really like this.
Yeah. And that's big for like weight loss. I have an athlete right now that he's training for a 100-mile race, but he's also wanting to lose weight along the way. Yeah. And instead of being like, hey, let's look at the weight loss and then let's look at the racing, and be like, when you look at training for a 100-mile race, what do you think is going to come along with that? You're going to get mental strength. You're going to get physical strength, but you're also probably going to lose weight, especially if we tweak the nutrition a little. So don't look
Yeah.
at it as like a journey to lose weight and to run 100 miles. Just be the person that's going to run 100 miles, and all of that will come with it.
No, agreed, man. I find that often people go, "Hey, I want to lose the weight first," but it's not the identity like you mentioned. Like, do you want to be a person that's in shape and feels good, or are you trying to lose the weight? And people often think they correlate. They don't. Like if you run into your point, 100-mile race, man, and you eating good, and you're probably gonna eat a lot more than you usually eat anyway, but you're gonna be dropping some of the weight. It was the same thing in my weight loss journey. It didn't click for me until I started doing. I have this thing I always say. It's more about the procedure and the steps to do things versus the actual outcome. But when you focus on the result, people start cutting corners. Like, I want to lose weight. Let me only eat a salad today, or let me cut to 1,000 calories. That's horrible for you, man. Yeah, you're going to lose it, but in 2 months, you're going to get it right back. you know?
100%. It's that like instant gratification personality.
Yeah.
And it's more common than not. I mean, I can resonate. Like I've been there too. And it's just learning the hard way of like instant gratification isn't any good because it's not sustainable. What's going to be more gratifying is finding a sustainable formula that works for you. That's going to be working for the present you and for the you 20 years in the future. And when that idea clicks, it's like, there's no rush. I got to be more patient and things will pop up. And I'm sure you and so many people listening can resonate with like, you've definitely done something and you've just been super consistent with it. And maybe it wasn't in a month or in a year or even 5 years, but eventually something just the day you woke up, it clicked and then it rolled from there and it kept working for you because you stuck with it, no matter what it was. So I look through that lens with everything now. And I see it so much with my athletes. Like I see they have it. They have the thing to get them where they want to do. The only thing that's going to be in their way is themselves. So I just tell them, trust the process and communicate with me, and we're going to get this done. And I know it's frustrating right now because this is going on, but we're going to get past this because we're just going to trust the process. We're going to continue showing up for yourself. And 2 months down the road, you're going to look back at this conversation and be like, I don't even know why I was complaining because we just hit the goal that we wanted to get anyway.
Yeah. No, agreed, man. It's funny. That's what I love about like your story and also just running in general. It's one of those things where if you want to have success in this sport and running and ultras and 5K, half, a full, right? You can get, I feel anyone can do it. But when you go from, okay, I want to do it to now I want to have success, and it could be anything, right? Maybe you just want to improve 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I'm not talking about being fast or anything here, but you want to improve, you got to put in the work, and those experiences show you and give you a trust system too at the same time. I'm sure for you, man, doing a couple ultras, several now, you do those long runs. It's just kind of giving you that mindset like, man, I can do anything. I go and do this again tomorrow, and it's just building that experience and that strength in your mind to continue to do it. I want to talk about coaching. So when did you become a coach, in this experience? Let's start with that.
So, I mean, like I said, I've been coaching since I'm like 18, and it's been more like general fitness and all that. And in 2022, I started working at a gym where the owner really became my mentor, and it showed me that like the best way I've seen clients get improvement and progression was not only tapping into like, hey, show up for this workout, let's do this to get strong or lose your weight. It was like more of a mentor version where you're going to talk to them, you're going to sit down, you're going to have more conversations, you're going to learn the person more, build more of a relationship, and then you'll see so much more progression because now we're understanding like what's life like outside of the gym, because we're in here for an hour doing a session, but you're living 23 hours after that. And maybe I only see you once a week, so I'm not going to see you for another 6 days. What's going on in those 6 days is going to be more important than what we do in this hour in the gym. So it was more like this conversational aspect of learning the clientele rather than just come in here, we got to do the work and I'll see you later. And learning that structure had me realize like, hey, I turned to my mentor, Mike, and I was like, listen, dude, I want to do this, but I want to do this for running and I want to start my own business. So last January of 2024, I created Infinite Coaching, and it's all online based. And that's where this was born, of having this coaching slash mentorship ideology to help people not only hit their goal in running, but become the person that hits their goal in running, and have them take that with them afterwards. So they create these new habits along the way that has helped them train for the race or the event that they wanted to do. But also those habits are instilled so that now like they can live that lifestyle all the time, because that's what happened with me. Like I had to create new habits for myself. I was lazy. I never wanted to do it. When things hurt, I would quit. And I
Yeah.
had to realize, like, when you stop quitting and you start doing and you become less lazy because you just keep showing up, those things built up to where now it's just like I'm a robot, and it's boring and it's mundane, but like the progression and the things that I've achieved by doing those boring things is what's changed my life. And I want other people to learn that way. And everybody has their own thing. Like some people are really good at one thing and they need to get better at another. So we fill those holes where they're not as strong at, and we make that one of their strengths. And now it just rolls through. So when the next time they come around, they're like, hey, we had a lot of success with this training, with this goal that I hit or this race that I hit. I want to do it again. And we don't have to instill any new habits really. Now it's just like, okay, remember last time what we did? Now we're going to just stack on that, and you're going to hit a better result than you did the last time, or you can hit a bigger goal because now you have that confidence to get there.
Yeah.
So that's really my ideology with Infinite, is just like communication and trust, biggest things. Let's build this relationship. Let's make sure that we're constantly meeting up and talking to each other, and making sure that like we're following through with everything that we committed to. And if we don't, then we find a way to pivot and make it work. And it always works out that way. So it's only been a year and a half of this online business, but the progression I've had is insane. And the coolest thing is, like, it was so cool when I hit 100 miles. Now I have 10 100 milers with me. And that's two guys
Awesome.
that hit it twice, and then the 6 other people that have accomplished 100 miles. And I can tell you right now that it is a million times better witnessing someone else put in the work, go through the ups and downs, and then make it to the 100-mile start line and finish the 100-miler that they started. And me like being there and just like seeing them do that, rather than me go out and do 100-mile myself. Now when I do 100-mile, I'm like, oh, whatever. It's like, it's not anymore. But when I see someone else do it, it brings tears to my eyes, because like I know what they had to do to get there, and I know how much it meant to them and their families that are involved in everything. So that's what I love about it. And same thing, like I coach marathoners. I coach people that just get into running, that want to run their first half marathon or whatever it is, the goal that they have. And just seeing them start to finish and knowing the journey they had to get there is just unbelievable. It's the most fulfilling career I could ask for. And it's special. And it's why I lean into my passion and continue to build this business.
That's awesome, man. I love the success you're having. 10 ultra marathoners, 100 milers. Whew,
Yeah.
that is crazy.
It's been a year and a half too. That's what's the cool part. Like, and that's something that I feel is what I want to lean in towards more, is people coming to me with the 100-mile goal. And I think the more populated that running gets, the more people like go from legit like a marathon and turn and be like, well, now I want to run 100 miles, not realizing like the commitment that they just signed up for. And some do realize the commitment, but I think that's another thing too, is like, hey, you just told me you want to run 100 miles. Do you know what that actually means? And laying down like what that actually looks like, and the sacrifice, and like making sure if they're married or they have a girlfriend, like there's got to be a lot of conversation within that, because there's going to be a lot of headbutting if there's not. It's that's what's big too. And yeah, it's been amazing to have that. And I've had people run 50Ks, 50 milers, but the 100 miles with the 10 finishers has been my biggest win so far as a coach with an Infinite.
Can you run me through, like, say, just a brief example of, hey, I'm running a 100 miler, what the week looks like?
Yeah. And this is when it comes to like the individual. So the first thing I would say is like, we got to learn like what you do for a living. How many hours of sleep do you usually get? How many miles have you worked up to so far consistently? Not like, oh, I've ran 40-mile weeks. And then I look at your Strava and it looks like a roller coaster. And there was one 40-mile week 3 weeks ago. So I think it's really important that we build this base and we get really consistent. And if you're starting at 30-mile weeks, like I think the sweet spot for 100 miles is you should have a good amount of 50-mile weeks. But let's say like your body can't handle that. Then we want to have some big key workouts that you're going to be able to hit. Like maybe it's a couple marathons or like back-to-back 20-milers. But 1 week could look like, say we start at 30-mile weeks. We want to be consistent first with hitting like multiple, like building up out of the 30-mile weeks, and let's hit up multiple 40-mile weeks. Let's check in how your body's doing. We're checking your sleep, diet, stress. Sleep's been good. Stress has been but my diet has been good. All right, if 2 out of 3 of those has been good, we can continue going, and we'll work on the stress management. And don't forget that running is a piece of the stress, right? So that's the most we can manage. So if work is really stressful, we don't need to hit like crazy volume this week because you're in a lot of stress with work. So we're just going to manage it by making sure you're dialed in on these key workouts, whether it's like a big track workout or a big tempo run or a big long run. And then we're going to build up into that 40-mile week. And then if the body reacts really well, all right, let's see if we could tap into a few 50-mile weeks. And if that works out really well, then within those 50-mile weeks, we're probably going to hit like a big back-to-back long run. I think that turns over really well. And what a back-to-back long run could look like is like Friday, you're going to do 20 miles. Saturday, you're going to wake up and do another 20 or another 15. And that's going to be really good with the legs being heavy and feeling it. And you're going to spend a lot of time on your feet in those times. So we're going to practice your fueling system within that. And I think the key thing is like making sure you're getting in 100 to 200 calories per hour and figuring out what foods and what supplements that you're going to be able to take that agrees with your stomach. So you're not having to go to the bathroom all the time, or you're not feeling like sick or cramped up or anything. So if we get through that stage, then maybe we hit like a peak week of like 60 miles. And I think with that, along with strength training, along with the sleep, diet, stress stuff, is a good formula to get someone to run 100 miles. And then it's building from day one, we're building the story from the finish line back to the start line. Let's picture yourself at mile 90. What's that look like? How are you going to get yourself through that to get to the finish line? What about mile 60, mile 40, mile 30? Everything's good at mile 20. Like, so you're building from back to start. And the more we're envisioning that, and this comes from my weightlifting coach, he was always telling me to like, see yourself hitting that big weight, see yourself hitting the big goal. And when you look at that with 100 miles, like see yourself at the finish line, get a vision of the race director handing you the buckle. That's going to be you. And we're going to do it. It's already done. We just need to bring it into reality. So the more you think about it, the more it's going to become reality. So as you can see, it's like, it's more than just waking up and doing the training. It's making sure that like everything, all the other aspects of your life are in line. You're building a routine. You're creating good habits around that. You're showing up, being consistent with running, not looking for perfection, but looking for consistency in the training, and then also creating your mindset around it and continue to envision yourself finishing it. And over, I'd say, if it's your first 100 miler, it should probably be like 6 months minimum of preparing to do it. But over those 6 months, you've just created all of these new things in your life, or dialed in on some things that you've already had a process with, and you'll be able to accomplish the goal of running 100 miles.
There you go, everyone. There's a basic outlook of what you need to be putting in for an ultra. Dan, do you think anyone can run a 100-miler or even a sub-3 hour? Which is harder?
I love that question. I'd say sub-3 hour marathon is much harder. And the reason is because the sub-3 hour marathon is very specific, and you can't miss. You have to be super dialed in. And what it takes to get to the sub-3 hour marathon is even harder, because you're beating your body up with these intense workouts. And like volume is a lot on the body, but putting volume mixed with intensity and running fast, the sub 3 hours, a 6:50 pace, but that's if you're following the straight line on the marathon course, and you're not going to be doing that. So you probably have to run around a 6:48 to nail it, and you can't miss. And you have to be even more dialed in on your fuel because your glycogen storage is just dropping because the intensity is higher. So now you got to be taking in gels, and you got to be used to taking in those gels while running at that pace, while all this other commotion is happening. And if you miss by 1 minute, 2 minutes, you go to the bathroom on the course, whatever, now you're falling behind. Now all of a sudden your heart rate's racing faster because you're starting to panic, like you're falling off, and it can all go to real quick. Or if you stick to it and you're on it, then you're just going to go through it. You're going to hit the goal, but you're going to feel the pain on the way. You're going to know like why it was worth hitting that marathon. With 100-miler, a lot of them are very lenient. Like if you set yourself up with a good 100-miler, they may give you 36 hours to finish 100 miles. It's very, very doable. I think that's like I think it's even more than a 20-minute pace. So like if you nonstop walk the whole time, you could probably walk the whole 100 miles in 36 hours or something like that. But obviously the faster you want to run 100 miles, the harder it's going to be, the more relatable to like what I was just saying about the sub 3 marathon. The more specific you got to be. But because there's walking involved, there's sleep can be involved. I've done 100-miler where like I didn't hit my goal, and then it was like, well, I'm finishing this thing. Like I came out here, I'm getting this thing done. So in order to get it done, I took a nap. I took like a 20-minute nap. During it to like reset, turn off the brain, and then restart and get yourself going. You have the time to do that in 100 miles. It's just being more mentally like, can you push through this suffering for that much longer? So, but you have more time. You could sit, you could relax. It's more of a mental toughness where like the sub 3 marathon is mental and physical all in one. And you gotta like push through it the whole time. And you gotta come very prepared. You can come prepared for a 100-miler. You can also like be slightly prepared and just push yourself through it. I'm sure you'll walk away with or be stretchered away with an injury, but you could get it done if you have the strong mental. If you're not prepared for a sub 3 marathon, unless you're just like a freak of nature, then you're not going to be able to get it done. So that's why I say the sub 3 is harder.
The sub 3. Okay. Do those naps really work for you in an ultra? For those listening and curious, if you're in an ultra, you're at mile 50 or something, you're going to take a nap. Do you really feel refreshed?
It's the weirdest feeling ever. And I think it's one of the skills I have, right? I can fall asleep anywhere. Like I could go sit on a couch and just like close my eyes and fall asleep. And my girlfriend jokes around and says like I'm narcoleptic, but I'm not that stage, but I can fall asleep anywhere. So that takes a skill set, and then it's like the willpower to get back up. You know, I've done a 48-hour race on a track, and after 24 hours, I started using the micro naps, 5-minute naps, where it was legit. Like my alarm goes off, and I'm sitting up, and I'm putting my shoes back on, and I'm out the tent before I can even think. Like you can't think, you just got to go. It's like this nap is just because your eyes are so heavy that you're just going to collapse on the track. So you need to just close your eyes to go out. I can compare it to like if you've ever been driving on the highway for a long drive and your eyes get heavy and you pull over and you close your eyes for a few minutes and you wake up and you're like, wow, I feel so refreshed. It's like very similar to that. Your body doesn't feel great. You know, it's not like getting a full night's sleep and waking up like, oh, I feel so much better. But it relieves that like heavy eye feeling, the grogginess, like those little things go away from these micro naps. And it also plays a longer game for you cognitively, like that you can think more clearly when you do turn off your brain for a few minutes. So it definitely helps. It definitely is a practice. You can't just like assume that you can do it because you'll probably just fall asleep and never wake up till the next day. So you got to be used to just like going to sleep, popping up and being ready to go. But it definitely helps for sure. And especially the longer you're going, right? When a 48-hour race, I think it's just as important as fueling and hydration. Like you got to sleep in these little naps. I had like a cot set up so I could just lay down and do it. And same with the backyard ultras, is that you got to like, if you're going to go longer than a 24 laps, then you got to be able to like lay down, close your eyes, and be more relaxed. So it helps out a lot.
Okay. You ever have you often hear, from like say the Courtney DeWalters of the world and the Camerons and all these people hallucinating on the course. You ever have that?
Slightly, like I'll have little eye hallucinations, meaning like a tree stub may look like a human from like afar, and then like you like shake your head and you're like, oh no, that's a tree. And like you'll see like little things. I've never had like crazy story hallucinations where like I'm out there and like I'm all of a sudden like at a Willy Wonka factory, or like little trolls are running around. I've never seen anything crazy, but there will be like things with my eyes will play tricks on me where I'll think it's an animal, or I'll think it's a different, like a person like in the side, and it ends up just being a tree, or like a ribbon hanging from a tree or something like that. But no hallucinations yet. I'm sure when I dive into these longer multi days that
Yeah.
I'll experience those hallucinations.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm glad you don't have them for now. They never
Yeah.
sound like fun, but somehow, some of these guys and ladies push through it. What's the family think of all this? They see you almost, I'm sure, out the door all day, hella laundry, running all the time. You're all enveloped in running, ultra. You got the coaching business. What's the family, girlfriend, and all think of this?
Like I said before, it takes a lot of communication. So this year I have two races that I did and that I'm doing. I did a 48-hour race back in April, and I'm doing a backyard race in August, on August 30th. And like the backyard race, I plan on running for more than one day. It might be 2 days, it might be 3 days. Those races don't end until it's over, and I want to go and win. So it's going to take everything I can to go win. I had to tell my girlfriend about this last year and sit down and have a legit conversation. Hey, this is what I plan on doing next year. It's going to take a lot of training. It's going to take multiple days within the race. Like, are you on board with this? And when she agrees, it's like, yes. It's like asking, when you're a kid, asking your mom, like, can I have a sleepover? It's like that kind of feeling. So it takes conversations, especially with your significant other, to have understanding. And she's always on board. She knows my kind of crazy. She loves it. And so she's on board with it. But I have to let her know in advance. Like, I've already started telling her, hey, I'm probably going to shoot for the lottery for Moab 2240 in January. I'm like, it's in Utah. It's beautiful out there. Not real. Like, it's an insane thing. It's an insane thing.
Yeah.
But like already planting that seed in her head. And like at first it seems like a joke, and then I keep bringing it up. Like, no, I'm really going to do it. Like, you're cool with that. My family, my mom has yet to come to one of my races, and she was the same way. Like when I was wrestling, it was hard for her to watch. She just checks in with everyone that's there with me. She already knows, like, if she's like trying to baby me on the phone, I'm not going to like even react to her messages, because she's trying to like pull me away from the pain.
Yeah.
And I need to be all the way
You
in.
go in it.
Yeah, but she accepts, like, she knows, even from like the weightlifting days and the wrestling, like, she knows that this is just my mindset, and this is what gives me like what I'm passionate about, and what I really love to do. So she's not going to take away something that I love to do, or try and stop me. So she's on board. My sister, who I love when she crews me, she's the best with it. She's big with it. My dad was always a big guy that was into like my last name's Marchese, and he's like, Marchese's never say I can't. So I think I blame him a little bit for instilling this I can't mindset into me. So he totally gets it, and he blames it on like the blood from the family. Like, that's the no quit in us. That's why you could do it. Everyone's really on board. I think the main thing is, like, anyone out there that wants to do these races, even if it's a marathon or anything, is just always have that conversation with your significant other, because it's not the race thing. It's the time it's going to take to train for it. And you don't want to butt heads with them, and you can make time around them so that the relationship is still strong, and it even gets them involved. And the more they get involved, the more understanding they're going to have about it. The more they understand it, the more they're going to be like, that's okay. Like, go hit that training session. Or like, I understand that you don't want to sleep in with me on Sunday, so you got to wake up at 5 a.m. And like, but I know what it means to you. And then when they see you accomplish it, and they see like the people around you, or in ultra marathons, like you come in and you finish, like it's a smaller setting, so everyone's there cheering just for you. Like they're like, wow, that's my person. And
Yeah.
everyone's cheering them on. Like, well, it's a proud moment for them as well. So I think that's super important though, to just have those conversations and make sure they're very involved in it, and know what it takes, the commitment, the sacrifice, and everything.
Yeah, agreed, man. I have the same thing with my girlfriend, and it sounds like we both try to do the same sweet talk. Like, hey, it's gonna be a trip to this country or this state. You know, we ain't been there yet.
Yeah.
And you try to massage it, but realistically, like, I ain't walking the 3 days leading up to it because I got to be off my feet.
She's like, oh, we can hike. And I'm like, yeah. It's like, I won't do it beforehand. And then afterwards, there's no shot I'm going to be able to do it. But
Yeah,
you'll be there. You can get some pictures.
that's hilarious, man. I want to ask you, man. Like you mentioned, Nick Bear being one of your influences earlier. I saw you did his recent ultra. What was that like for you to one? You know, I'm sure you had some feelings and emotions doing it, and also like this inspired me. What was that like?
Yeah. So the coolest thing with Nick Bear, yeah, he was a huge inspiration when I got into it. And I did a Last Man Standing Ultra in Maine 2 years ago. And I didn't know till like a month before that, until he announced it, he was going to be at that race. So it was cool. Like I was out there, I was actually racing with Nick Bear, ended up surpassing him by like 40 miles. I mean, his goal was like to stop at 100, but it was cool to be out there and talk with him for a while, and just like, he's the kind of guy that like you see on the screen, like that's how he is in person. Like he's being himself, which is really cool. So it was like, when you have a conversation with him, it's almost like being on his podcast. It's just like the same kind of way he is on his
Yeah.
podcast, because that's just like who he is and how he is. So that was my first time meeting him, and I think for that time I was like, oh wow, like this is cool to like talk to the guy that I've been watching his videos for so long, but he's just like a normal guy like us. And then my athlete went out to Texas for his BPN Last Man Standing. And at that time, when I went up to him, I was like, oh, Nick. And he was like, oh, like, and he remembered me from the race, which I
That's
thought
cool.
was cool. And that time it was more like, now we were like friends, and we were just having conversations. I didn't have this feeling of like, oh, I'm talking to Nick Bear. I was just like, hey, how's this been going? Like, he posts his whole life out there. So it's like, I know things that he's doing, but I'm asking him questions to get his point of view. I was getting a little insight on G1M Plus before it came out, and he's just like so nonchalant about it. He was like, oh yeah, like the lady, I asked this lady, I was like, what's in this? And she's like, all I can tell you is that there's caffeine in it. This is before it dropped. And I turned to Nick and I'm like, Nick, what's in this? And he's like, oh, we got the mushroom, and then he just like explains the whole thing. And he's like, I just don't want to announce it yet, because then other businesses are going to
We'll
see it.
start. Yeah.
Yeah. So, which is great. And it's great marketing. He's amazing at what he does and what he's built. So it's been really cool to just like lean into that. And now I know meeting these people is just like meeting anyone that you know. I mean, obviously you create this thing around it, like, wow, like you could start to idolize this person, but you can't look at it like idolizing them. Just know that like more resonate with them and be inspired by them to do it, and then go do your thing. And you'll never know, by doing what you do is going to lead you to running into the people that used to inspire you. And I just feel like the more I'm in this field, the more I'm probably going to eventually bump into Cam Hanes, right? Because I bumped into Truett out there. Truett's another like really cool guy, like just down to earth, humble. And I'm sure I'll bump into a bunch of these guys, and it's just going to be like a natural conversation. And that's honestly what they want, right? They don't want people to be like,
Yeah, of course.
oh my goodness, like that's not where they're going to have a good conversation with you. But when you talk to them like they're just like another guy, you're going to get like a better relationship with them, and I'm sure it'll build into something more. So it's taught me that, you know, learning, like meeting people that you see outside, like on YouTube or in movies, like they're just talk to them like normal people, because that's what they are. And you'll learn about them way more than if you just looked at them like they're this like big star.
And you're also in the space too as well, man. You're running the distance, you're running the similar races, you know. So you guys know what that pain is like and what those miles and training is. But you yourself, man, you're in the space now. You got some amazing content as I alluded to earlier. It's some funny stuff that Dan posts, man. You got to check it out. Like I said, I'm going to share. But how'd you get into the content space and wanting to put yourself out there, but also you have a way of, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're training hard, you're taking everything serious, but you're also not taking yourself so serious where you can have fun with it.
I think that's what you said right there is so important. And like, that's who I am as a person. Like, we're out for a run. I'm probably going to say some dark humor. I'm probably going to say like things that like would throw you off. I'm not out there like, if we ran with David Goggins, I'm sure it would be like crazy conversation. He would just be spitting some hard stuff at you all the time, because that seems to be his personality. But for me, it's like, yeah, I understand that hard side, but you got to have some light in it, and it's got to be fun, or else what's the point of doing it? Like, you got to get laughs out of it. So that's how I am as a person. And I've always like in and out wanted to make content. Even when I was a kid, me and my brother would pick up a camcorder and we would like make these movies and stuff. And I was always involved in that. And I even did a play when I was in middle school. So I was into acting. So I've always had that piece of me. And I've always said, like, I want to take it more serious in content creating. But it's the same thing, like how I show up with training, how I show up with my business. That's how you got to show up with content creating. And that's where I've been for really more seriously in the last 6 months. I've like nonstop. I've posted like every day and put more time involved in content creating and studying other people's content and all that. And so I just like went with it, and I was like, I just have to be me. And I have to like not only tell my story, but also bring out my personality. And I'm just like a funnier guy. Like I'm someone that like tries to, not even tries, like I just like making people laugh. And by making people laugh, I just say these things, or I take out the funny side of like something that may be taken more seriously. And that's what really gets people to laugh. Cause it's like, if you're always serious, then it's not fun. But if you like take the little funny out of the thing that's serious, you're going to look at it with a brighter eye, because you're going to be like, it's not that bad. Like, and it's more relatable. You know, people relate with things that are like the humor side of it. Like, oh man, I've been there. I related to that. And, so that's why I lean more into that. And it's fun. I love to edit, and I love to create, and it's been just fun doing it. And like what running is, coaching, like I really just lean into things I'm passionate about. There's one thing anyone could take out of this conversation, it's doing that. It's like, if you're doing things every day that you're not passionate about, start doing the things that you're passionate about. Stop stressing about what the outcome is going to be if you give up the thing that you don't even love to do anyway, but you're putting all your time into it, because you're going to feel so much better as a person when you lean into the things that you're more passionate about. Could I have gone to a career and, got a better college degree or lean more into my college degree and got a 9 to 5 where I'm sitting there and I'm doing things and I'm chasing the dollar and I'm chasing this, but not love it at all? Absolutely. But I knew right away that that's not what I wanted to do. So that's why I was like, I want to help people. Let me coach people. It's not going to be, I'm not going to be super rich right off the bat, but I know I'll be rich in helping someone else. And that's way more than just like chasing a dollar. And then also, I want to involve my training with my career, with my content creation. And if I can mix it all in one, I'll be more happier with doing that rather than just doing something I'm not passionate about. So do the things you're passionate about. And it's fine. Like, if you got to make a living, you got to make a living. And that's only like a short amount of time of the day. But make sure when you get off the job that you're doing things that you love to do, whether it's spending more time with your kids, or you're creating content, or you're training for something. Include that in your life and make sure you love it. And if you don't love it, then reassess and audit yourself so that you do something that you love to do. And life is more fulfilling. Life is always going to be highs and lows. And I think that's why I love doing the ultra marathons too, because you go through those highs and lows. And it's like, that's why it's great when you accomplish the thing, because it was hard to get there, and anything worth achieving is not going to be easy to get there. That's what my life is. There's some days where it's not easy. I have doubt in myself. And then there's other days where I'm like, man, I'm so glad I didn't give up because I got to get on this podcast, or I got a really good reaction from this video that I made, or I hit this goal that I've been working so hard on. So it's really like, it's all correlated, it's all connected, and it all works out if you keep going at it and you keep chipping away.
Yeah, man, you said a lot there. That's amazing. I mean, for those listening, you can hear the passion behind it. Similar to you, man, when I have to edit a lot of these and make reels and stuff, you often hear reels are, oh, I don't like editing. I don't know. For some reason, I enjoy it because to me, I love telling stories, which is kind of how this started. I'm going to ask you something about this in a second, but like when you got to cut a video in a certain way, my brain goes to, how can I best tell this person's story? And there's fun in that, like, and you said also talking about being yourself, man, there's so much fun in that, man. And like Dan said here, for those listening, yeah, sometimes you got to make a living, do what you got to do, but also make time for the things that you do love. It's going to be contagious. I found personally, like your family, friends around you, they're just going to be like, man, you look happy, you look pumped, like you're excited, you go into a race and you're like fired up. Right. Do you feel a lot of the content you've shared and stuff, I can 100% tell, like a lot of it's you just sharing yourself and having fun with it, but like, do you feel it helps your training and running and just your overall life?
For sure. Like I think it also, it what I love about it is that like I can look back at it. When I was younger, my dad would record everything. But what was cool when I got a little older, we would go and we'd watch these home videos, and like to watch it and you're like, wow, we just captured moments of life here. We get to like, it brings that nostalgia back. It brings back those memories. So me being able to like go out and train and then also like create content off of it, it allows me to have those moments just like recorded, and I can go back and put myself back in that moment where it was like, wow, like I remember this day so vividly. Like it was an amazing experience. And like, here I am. Oh, at this point, I know what I was going through in my mind because it reminds me of that. So for sure, like creating that really helps out my training because it brings me back, and sometimes it's a motivator. Like, hey, if there's anything that's going to come out of this run, at least like I'll record some content off of it and be able to like go home and like edit and create something out of it, even though this run completely felt like shit. And I can create a story of that out of that by showing not every run's going to be great. Here's a run that is like, it all shouldn't be your highlights. There should be some real moments in there as well. So that's what's awesome about making the edits. And even when I record my clients races and stuff like that, and I throw those edits together, they get to experience what they just went through all the way through, and they get to experience from a different point of view. So that's what's really cool too.
Yeah, agreed, man. I'm kind of in the same boat, man. The more people I talk to, the more I'm like, I got a race in the fall coming up, and like, man, I got to show up twice now, because you can't go through all these and learn from so much people and then like not put in the work, So agreed, and I feel similar when it comes to this space, man. What do you got coming up next? You mentioned Moab, but you said lottery. So what do you got for the rest of the year coming up that you want to do? It could be running or in the space, content, anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna continue for like content creation. I mean, my big thing is just continue to build my personal brand, which will help out my business as well, and continue to build my business, continue to help my clients that I have right now hit their goals. That's number one. And then for me, I have the last man standing that I did with Nick Bear in August of 2023. I finished top 3 in there, but if you don't win it, you don't really like, you're not in third place. You were the third to last to DNF. So my goal is to go back there again. And this time I'm going for the win. So that's August 30th. That's why on July 3rd, I did a 18-hour training run. It was meant to be a 24-hour training run. Again, like I'm throwing myself out there, like why would you do a 24-hour training run? That's going to like destroy you. I'm like, why not? Like, let's go for it. But at the 18th hour, I realized, and I made a promise to myself that like, if I ever have a moment where I'm like, I shouldn't keep going. I had that moment and I had to pull at 18, but it was still like an amazing 18 hours, 75 miles. So I have a few more weeks of training for it. And then on August 30th, I'm going back out there for my big W and gonna put it all out there for that. And then after that, I'm laying low for the rest of the year. I'm gonna run a marathon in Indianapolis with my girlfriend.
No way. I'm going to Indianapolis.
Oh, well, we're gonna meet in
Oh,
person.
let's
Let's
go.
go.
Okay.
November 8th or
Yes,
November
sir.
9th. Sweet, dude. That's gonna be awesome.
That's insane. That's awesome.
That'd be sweet. So what are you shooting for?
You know, it's not that I want to say, yeah, I don't know. I want to let the training do the talking this time around. So I've been dealing with a tendon issue, which is mostly healed, but it keeps flaring up here and there. But we got plenty of time still. It's going to be my first time putting some higher mileage. I want to get up into the 60s ideally. I've never touched that mileage, but that's kind of what I want to do. And that's kind of why I say, because my goal realistically, so I didn't share it on this, but I became a coach during my running journey last year. And I've been traveling around and studying the game. You know, it sounds like you do the same thing with content and coaching and stuff. And there's a couple new philosophies I'm testing on myself. Funny enough, we spoke about that I want to try out. So mileage, increasing the mileage. There's a couple speed workouts and stuff that I want to try to focus on for the next couple months. So my goal is right now is just get the mileage up and somewhere around August, September, hold that mileage and ideally start working on the pace for whatever I'm at that time for the last few weeks. And then whatever that is come September, October, then I'll know what time. But if I were to say a time right now, I mean, and if I heal up and everything goes great, man, I definitely want to knock on the door of 320 something is kind of what I'm thinking. You know, obviously I have bigger goals for later on, but I think for now with the tendon issue I had this year, going under sub 330 would be great. Obviously, as you know, Indianapolis, we're going to have great weather, flat course. So there's going to be I'm looking forward to it, man. My injury's almost healed up. We in summer. For the first time ever, I'm enjoying summer running. I'm in Colorado now. It's my second year, so I'm training at altitude and heat. They say the poor man altitude is heat. Well, I got both.
Yeah.
So I'm only touching sea level, I think, for a vacation back home with the family in New York. Maybe September. It's still up in the air, or I might have a trip with the girlfriend come September. But other than that, I'll be at altitude the whole time. So we'll see, man. Obviously, we'll keep in touch. This is insane that we're doing it. There's a couple other people doing it too, so we'll link up, man. But that's awesome, man.
I'm excited now that another guy, I told him I was doing it. He's doing it too. So he said he's doing it with his girlfriend. So there'll be a few people to meet up with. Maybe we can get a big shakeout in together.
Yeah.
That'd
be dope. I'm down already. I don't know where, but we'll get a big cookout going on. You know, maybe get some food the night before or something. We'll figure it out. I have funny enough, I have two other people coming with me too as well that I'm coaching, and some of the people on the pod are doing Indianapolis too. Some of the episodes that are to come out. So yeah, maybe we get a big shakeout on of all types of runners, and just knock it out the park and just have some fun with it, man. And grab some pictures, you know, or something.
That would be sweet. You could do the People Run podcast shakeout run.
Shakeout run / meets Dan Ultra and some other people's names. But we'll just combine it, man. But Dan, if people want to get in touch with you, man, well, first off, I do want to say check out Dan's content, man. I genuinely mean that. If I'm gonna ever on this podcast share, hey, check someone's stuff out, it's because either I believe in it or I think it's dope. And Dan content, it makes me laugh all the time, man. We often see content, and you know, some of it's kind of okay, but Dan stuff is hilarious. So go check it out, man. I'll obviously in this description put some stuff. But Dan, if people want to get in touch with you, you know, or maybe, you know, do their first ultra, where can they reach you at?
Yeah, so you can go right to my Instagram, Dan Marchese _. And then you can also go to Infinite Coaching _ on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. What we'll do is, if you're interested in coaching and some of the things I explained, we hop on a call together so we can learn more about each other first, see if it's a good fit, and then we go from there. But you can either go to my Instagram, DM me, or the Infinite Coaching _ Instagram, or you'll find the website and the link, which is Infinite Coaching brand, and reach out. You know, I'm up to have the conversation at least to see if it works out. And if not, then I like to lead people away where I know a coach or a brand to go towards to get them towards their goal, no matter what.
Dope. Well, everyone, this has been the People Run podcast. If you're new, follow, share, subscribe. Hope you got something out of this. If you have some more questions or you want to share some comments, maybe share some of your first races, put it in the comments. This has been the People Run. Thank you again, Dan. Until next time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.